Look, when it comes to intensity, I don't know if Andrew Wiggins is ever really going to check that box from just a eye test alone. He is not wired to slap the floor, follow me, I know the way. It's just not his personality. I don't know if it's passivity, Canadian passivity. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what it is about Wiggins, but there is a lack of visible dog in him right up until last year's NBA Finals. And then you saw it a little bit. And in the aftermath of the parade, he was up there basically promising, this is who I am now. I'm going to go out and get you 6, 7, 8 rebounds a night now. This is who I've learned I need to be. And it hasn't exactly happened. Now, when I do think of the problems on this team, I got to say this, Ray. Andrew Wiggins is not one of the first names that comes to mind. But our caller, Ray from Belmont, does, point out something that I think is a pretty good observation. It's just saying that, if you're going to launch threes right away and you got a guy who's not even down there to get your rebounds, not even down there in the low post, or also hanging out at the perimeter, it might gum things up a little bit. I don't think Wiggins is the chief that offended me basketball player on this team in any way. But could he be doing more? You're damn well right he could be. More rebounds, more intensity, more I'm a leader on this team now, follow me, I know the way, especially now that Curry's out. There's an opportunity for him to do that.
He has not been as effective defensively. I don't think it's because he lacks dog. I think he is who he is. And I think what you saw in the postseason was a guy who said, well, this is what I have to do, so this is what I have to do. And he came up big there. And I don't think it's unreasonable to assume that he wouldn't do that again if given a similar assignment. I mean, I could see him guarding Irving every night in a series. I also think that he hasn't been healthy for a lot of the year. So I don't know what it is that has caused him to be less effective, but I wouldn't omit that as a reason.
The whole team is less effective. I mean, there's just no other way to look at it. The entire team has let the team down.
Yeah, I mean, and like you, I wouldn't put Wiggins at the top of that list by any means. I mean, they are a victim of, I think, overthinking the situation they were in and creating a bench that isn't nearly as useful and effective as their past benches have been. And it's not just about old versus young. It's been clear all year long that they don't have the Peyton Porter type who can come in and say, okay, we need this done now. Can you do that? And they would get it done. I don't think they have that anymore. So they're sort of stuck with whatever it is Jonathan Kuminga has to give you. You can't tell Jonathan Kuminga to do something different than what he's already doing. I just don't think they're as adaptable. I don't think they're as multi-tooled as past Warrior teams. And I think that's an issue about roster construction more than anything else. They took a gamble on JaMychal Green, who up until now has been a profound disappointment. They rolled the dice on Dante DiVincenzo, who's been good at times, not good at times. And the young guys have not come up really at all. I mean, Kuminga's had stretches, but,
Wiseman's unavailable. Yeah, Moses Moody's unavailable. Yeah, Patrick PBJ.
Baldwin.
Baldwin is just not in the mix.
And I think maybe part of that is because those guys are not useful NBA players yet, and maybe never. So I think this is a roster problem. I don't think they're deep enough, and they're also getting up in years. So that's when you need your depth more than ever, and they don't have it.
I like DiVincenzo, but the rest of the signings have not really worked out. And let me just ask you, as we're sitting here looking at a trade deadline that will be here on Thursday afternoon, so it's speak now or forever hold your peace time, will Curry's absence in any way affect what the Warriors were about to do here at the trade deadline?
I think they were rogered before this, and they're definitely rogered now. Because who wants what they have to offer to the point where they would give up something of value in return? And if you're just going to make a cat and dog deal, you haven't really accomplished anything. So I think, just like all the other trade deadlines the Warriors have been involved in, they're going to be watching other people make phone calls, because I don't think they can be players. I don't see how either the math, the desire, or the value is there for them.
There are a lot of roadblocks standing in the way of any Warriors offer. We'll get into those in a second. Last week when he joined us on Friday, I asked Steve Kerr straight up, and I just want to make sure that I've heard you correctly. We don't want to misquote you. You believe the Golden State Warriors can repeat as NBA champions, as built tonight?
Yeah, 100%. That is absolutely something I believe, and that's what we're working on. That's the plan.
Okay. I said, Steve, would you please expand on that just a little?
I still believe that we can do this, and I tell the players that almost every day, and it's authentic. We do have things we've got to improve on, and we're down to 30 games left in the season, so we need to take those steps now. But I still feel like we can do them, and I think our team is not afraid of anybody. I think given our experience and our history in the playoffs, our guys have a ton of confidence. But we got to do a better job, especially closing games. But overall, in general, the coaching staff too. We've got to settle on some rotations and figure out exactly how we're going to put this puzzle together the best way that we can, because it's still not clear. And while that is disconcerting, I still believe that it can be done.
There's really only one shot that the Golden State Warriors have. If you really want to boil it down to what's the one thing that they could have going for them? Team regular season does not matter. I mean, if that's really who they are, team regular season does not matter. And who they are, as healthy as they might be, when they start playing on the opening night of the playoffs, that's what matters. Now, having said all that, does Steph Curry's absence affect their behavior at the trade deadline? Well, if they were about to do a deal, they still should. If they weren't about to do a deal and stand pat with what they got, they still should. This Curry injury, if we're basically punting on the entirety of the regular season, it shouldn't matter at all. It really shouldn't matter to what they think, what they're evaluating. And, for the person on the Otis Bird III YouTube page text line says, it's real simple. Steve Kerr has to say that. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. Steve Kerr's got enough house credit built up to where if he didn't think that they had the real nuts to win a championship this year, he wouldn't have to be cutesy about it. This guy's hung banners. When you hang banners, you don't lie about your ability to hang banners.
Yes, you do.
Nah.
No, because he's not talking to you and me. He's talking to the players. And he sort of tipped his hand in the answer, which is, I tell them this every day. And if he's telling them that every day, he can't give a different story to the outside world. That was entirely performative.
Well,
I don't know what he believes.
I
don't know what he believes or doesn't believe. But he plays that game like every other coach in every other year, on every other team, in every other sport.
Well, do you realize that he's painting himself into a corner that's going to be hard to get out of?
Yeah, but guess what he gets to say? The day after I said that, Stephen Curry went down for 10 games.
Maybe.
Changes the answer.
Yeah, but
I don't know. I also don't think he cares what the answer is. I don't think he's trying to illuminate us with any answer he gives us. He's basically, he's trying to sell to the players, we could still do this if you guys pull your heads out.
So he's painting himself into the corner of, my team isn't listening to me anymore. My voice is falling on deaf ears in the locker room, which we all know historically happens to successful coaches.
But he also knows that what the outside world thinks doesn't matter. It only matters what the players think and what his two bosses think. Bob Myers is in his corner for eternity. Where Joe Lacob is, who knows? Because Joe Lacob has not had any reason to doubt Steve Kerr up until now.
What if Steve's working with a new GM next year who isn't as forever indebted to Steve Kerr? And he starts thinking to himself, Steve was great at this, but he's taken this as far as he can.
Well, then that won't be dependent on the answer he gave to us on Friday. That'll be dependent on what the new general manager is watching day in and day out. And Steve Kerr, when it comes to house credit, if the Warriors were stupid enough to get rid of him next year, for whatever reason, he'd have a job in 8 minutes.
Oh, no, there's no doubt about
that. So he has nothing to fear. I mean, he's already a made guy.
Which is why I don't think he's compelled to lie to us. Of course, every single Golden State Warrior listens to this show. Why wouldn't you? It's brilliant. It's phenomenal.
If I could avoid listening to it, I would. But that's another story. No, I think he has to present the consistent message because he's got young guys. If it was just about, will Draymond not believe me if I say something to him that's different than what I say to the public? Draymond Green he's an old hand. That doesn't affect him. Doesn't affect Curry. Might affect Kuminga. Might affect Poole. So he's got to play the game as though all those guys listen to everything in the outside world, that they're on social media 18 hours a day. So he's got to have a consistent message that follows the message he's giving them. So of course he's going to lie if he has to. He's lied hundreds of times. So he is, because he's a coach. Coaches lie when they have to.
Well, was he lying about this when I asked him, so what's this week look like for you and Bob Myers as Thursday approaches?
Bob and I will definitely sit down, probably early in the week just to go over whatever's happening, whatever's out there, if there is something out there or we're not. And he'll fill me in on that. And then, I go back and do my job and he does his, and that's about it. So, I mean, generally we had the one big one for Wiggs a couple of years ago at the trade deadline. Other than that, we've had very quiet trade deadline periods. And so I don't really expect anything to happen. I don't anticipate anything happening, but you always have to be prepared for it.
One of the biggest reasons why they're not expecting anything to happen is because they're very aware of their own situation. And their own situation, when you really open up the flower and you just start, you stop looking at all the petals of maybe, maybe not, trade not. When you get past all the, dream scenarios and you get into the reality of what the Warriors are working with, they are sitting at the table with terrible hold cards and they're short stacked in terms of chips to actually put on the felt and go gambling with at the trade deadline. It ain't easy.